A young man went to a job interview at a millionaire's office. When he saw his father's photo on the desk, he was paralyzed by what he did next. Lucas Morgan fell to his knees as another punch landed on his stomach. The two debt collectors towered over him in the hospital parking lot, their faces twisted with cruel satisfaction. "Where's our money, kid?" the larger one growled, grabbing Lucas by his shirt collar. "Mr. Rodriguez wants his 50 grand in 72 hours, or your mommy's life support gets unplugged." Blood trickled from Lucas's split lip as he gasped for air. "Please, I'll get the money. I just need more time." "Time's up," the second collector kicked him in the ribs. "Maybe this will motivate you to pay up." Lucas had tried everything. 3 jobs weren't enough. No bank would give him a loan. He'd even looked into selling his kidney on the black market. Nothing worked. In 72 hours, they would evict them from their modest house, and the hospital would disconnect his mother's life support due to unpaid bills. A sleek black Mercedes suddenly pulled up. The window rolled down, revealing an elderly man in an expensive suit. "Is there a problem here, gentlemen?" His authoritative voice made the collector step back. "Private business, old man. Keep driving," the larger one warned. The man stepped out of his car. Despite his age, he carried himself with unmistakable power. "I'm making it my business. Leave the boy alone, or the police will hear about your debt collection methods." Something in his tone made the collectors exchange nervous glances. They backed away, pointing at Lucas. 72 hours, kid, not a minute more." As they left, the elderly man helped Lucas up. "Are you all right, son?" Lucas wiped blood from his lip, straightening his only suit, the one he'd bought at Goodwill for job interviews. "Yes, sir. Thank you. I need to go. I have a job interview." "At Sullivan Technologies?" the man asked, surprising Lucas. "How did you know?" "Lucky guess. It's the only major company interviewing today." He handed Lucas a business card. "Clean yourself up first. Can't have you showing up looking like this." Lucas stared at the simple white card. It read only William and a phone number. "Sir, But the man was already getting back in his car. "Good luck with your interview, Lucas. You're going to need it." Lucas watched the Mercedes drive away, wondering how the man knew his name. He hadn't mentioned it. Checking his watch, he cursed under his breath. 20 minutes until the interview, his last chance to save his mother. In the hospital bathroom, Lucas did his best to clean up. The bruises were already showing, but his suit covered most of them. His mother Sarah lay unconscious in her room, machines beeping steadily. She'd been his only parent since he was 3 when his father abandoned them. "I'll fix this, Mom," he whispered, kissing her forehead. "I promise." The Sullivan Technologies building loomed ahead, its glass towers reaching into the sky. Lucas straightened his tie, ignoring the pain in his ribs. This was it, his final shot at saving everything he loved. The receptionist eyed his bruised face suspiciously, but directed him to the top floor. As the elevator climbed, Lucas silently prayed. He had graduated top of his class while working 3 jobs. He'd done everything right. Now he just needed one break, one chance to prove himself. The elevator doors opened to a luxurious office floor. Lucas took a deep breath, wincing at his injured ribs. In just a few minutes, he would meet the CEO of Sullivan Technologies. Everything depended on this interview. Little did he know, he had already met him in the parking lot. And his life was about to change forever. The executive assistant led Lucas into the CEO's office. His heart nearly stopped when he recognized the man from the parking lot sitting behind the massive desk. "Mr. Sullivan, Please sit down, Lucas." William gestured to the chair, studying him with the same authoritative gaze from earlier. "How are your ribs?" Lucas shifted uncomfortably. "I'm fine, sir. I didn't realize that I was the CEO. Sometimes it's better to observe people when they don't know who you are. It reveals their true character." William opened Lucas's resume. "Top of your class while working 3 jobs. Impressive. But tell me, why are those men threatening your mother's life?" Lucas's throat tightened. "Medical bills. My mother needs life-saving surgery. I borrowed money from the wrong people. Now I have 72 hours to pay $50,000. Or they'll pull the plug," William finished, his expression unreadable. "That's quite a situation." Lucas sat straighter, ignoring his pain. "Sir, I'm not asking for charity. I just want a chance to prove myself. I'll work harder than anyone." He stopped mid-sentence. His eyes had landed on a photograph on William's desk. The frame was facing away from him, but from his angle, he could see the image clearly. His heart stopped. That's my father. William's eyebrows shot up. Excuse me? With trembling hands, Lucas reached for the frame. William didn't stop him. In the photo, a younger William stood next to a man Lucas hadn't seen in 22 years. Richard Thompson, his father. This is impossible, Lucas whispered. The room started spinning. Richard Thompson was my chief operating officer for 20 years, William said slowly, until his car accident 6 months ago. How do you know him? He's my father. He abandoned my mother and me when I was 3. Lucas could barely breathe. You said accident? Is he? The office door burst open. A sharp-dressed man in his 30s stormed in. Uncle Will, we need to discuss the merger. He stopped short, glaring at Lucas. Who's this? Nathan, we're in the middle of an interview, William said firmly. Lucas barely heard them. The room was tilting. His father had been here in this building all these years, working alongside this man, living his life while Lucas and his mother struggled to survive. Your father isn't dead, Lucas, William said quietly, but perhaps it would have been better if he was. Lucas looked up, his vision blurring. What do you mean? The accident left him in a coma. He's in a private clinic under constant care. The revelation hit Lucas like a physical blow. Combined with his injuries and the shock, it was too much. The last thing he saw was Nathan's suspicious face as everything went black. When he came to, he was lying on a couch in William's office. An older woman was pressing a cold compress to his head. Easy there, she said kindly. I'm Sandra, Mr. Sullivan's executive assistant. I've worked here for 30 years. Lucas sat up slowly, his head pounding. William and Nathan were speaking in hushed, angry tones by the window. He's lying, Nathan was saying. This is obviously a scam. Look at him, William shot back. He's Richard's spitting image at that age. Sandra helped Lucas stand, her eyes filled with an emotion he couldn't read. She'd been watching him with an odd intensity since he woke up. Mr. Sullivan, Lucas said, his voice stronger. I want to see him. My father. Please. Nathan stepped forward. Absolutely not, Uncle Will. You can't seriously. Enough. William's voice cut through the tension. Lucas, I'll take you to see Richard myself. Now. As they left the office, Lucas caught Sandra watching him with tears in her eyes. She looked like she wanted to tell him something, but Nathan's glare silenced her. Lucas followed William to the elevator, his world completely shattered. In less than an hour, everything he thought he knew had crumbled. His father was alive. He had a cousin, Nathan, who clearly hated him. And somehow, he knew this was just the beginning of the revelations to come. The truth about Richard Thompson was waiting in a private clinic, and Lucas wasn't sure if he was ready to face it. The private clinic looked more like a luxury hotel. William led Lucas through secure doors to a private wing, where a single nurse monitored multiple screens. Here we are, William said, stopping at the last room. Lucas's legs almost gave out when he saw his father. Richard Thompson lay still, connected to machines, his face aged but unmistakable. Lucas approached the bed slowly. He's been like this since the accident, William explained. The best doctors say his condition is stable, but they don't know if he'll wake up. All these years, Lucas whispered, he was here in the city, living his life, building his career, while Mom worked herself sick to put food on our table. There's more to the story than you know, Lucas. A commotion outside interrupted them. Nathan burst into the room, followed by security guards. I told you not to let him in here, Nathan shouted. This imposter has no right. Enough, William's voice boomed. Nathan, he's Richard's son. Look at him. He's nobody, Nathan spat. I'm Richard's only son, his heir. This is clearly a scam to get his inheritance. Lucas turned to William. Inheritance? What inheritance? Richard was wealthy, William explained. Very wealthy, and Nathan was his designated heir until now. Nathan's face contorted with rage. Get out, both of you. As they left the clinic, Lucas noticed a man watching them from a car across the street. The man spoke into a phone, then started the engine. At the hospital, Lucas found his mother awake. The moment he mentioned Richard's name, Sarah Morgan's face went white with terror. He'll kill us, she whispered. If he knows we're here, he'll kill us. Mom, what are you talking about? Dad's in a coma. You don't understand. Sarah grabbed his arm. I worked there. At Sullivan Technologies, that's how I met your father. But what I saw, what I discovered. Before she could continue, a nurse rushed in. Mr. Morgan, your mother's blood pressure is spiking. You need to leave. In the hallway, Lucas's phone buzzed. A text from Sandra. Meet me in the parking garage. Level B2. Come alone. Lucas found Sandra pacing nervously between cars. Your father isn't sick, she said without preamble. He's hiding. Hiding? From what? From the people who tried to kill him, the same people watching you right now. She nodded toward a dark sedan at the garage entrance. Your father isn't who you think he is. None of them are. A car engine roared to life behind them. Headlights blazed. Sandra shoved Lucas hard, sending him sprawling behind a concrete pillar as the car accelerated toward them. Sandra dove in the opposite direction. The car missed them both, screeching around the corner and disappearing. That was just a warning, Sandra said, helping Lucas up. Nathan's getting desperate. He's contacted them, the people from your father's past. What people? Who's trying to kill us? I've said too much. Sandra looked around fearfully. Just know this, your father loved you. Everything he did was to protect you and your mother. The accident wasn't an accident, and his coma, just be careful who you trust. She hurried away, leaving Lucas with more questions than answers. His phone buzzed again. William wanted to meet. In William's office, Lucas found Nathan looking smugly satisfied. I've been doing some research, Nathan said. Seems your mother has quite a history with this company. Did she tell you she worked here? In the accounting department? Lucas's mind raced back to his mother's terror. What had she discovered? Nathan, that's enough, William warned. No, he needs to hear this. Tell him, Uncle Will. Tell him what really happened 22 years ago. Tell him why his precious father really disappeared. William sighed heavily. Lucas, sit down. There's something you need to know about your father, and about who Nathan really is. Lucas sat, his heart pounding. In just one day, his simple life had exploded into a maze of secrets and lies. And somehow, he knew the worst was yet to come. Through the window, he could see the dark sedan that had followed them, still waiting in the parking lot below. Whoever was in that car was watching, waiting. And Lucas had a feeling they weren't planning to wait much longer. Lucas's first day at Sullivan Technologies started with his computer crashing. By lunch, his security clearance had mysteriously disappeared, and his email was flooded with complaints about reports he hadn't even written. Nathan's behind this, Sandra whispered, helping him restore his files. He's trying to make you quit. Why give me the job just to sabotage me? William insisted on hiring you. Nathan couldn't stop that, but he can make your life hell. Lucas's phone buzzed, another text from the debt collectors. 48 hours left. There's something else you should see. Sandra led him to a storage room filled with old files. She pulled out a thick folder labeled Morgan L. Inside, Lucas found his entire life documented. Report cards, newspaper clippings, photos of him at graduation, even medical records. Your father kept this, Sandra explained. He tracked everything, every achievement, every milestone. While hiding in plain sight, Lucas said bitterly, he had his reasons. Sandra glanced nervously at the door. William saved your father's life once. That's why he's helping you now. Before Lucas could ask more, Nathan's voice boomed through the office. All employees, mandatory meeting in 5 minutes. In the conference room, Nathan stood at the front, smirking. We have concerns about recent security breaches. Someone's been accessing confidential files. His eyes locked on Lucas. Anyone caught violating company policy will be immediately terminated and prosecuted. After the meeting, Lucas found his desk had been moved to the basement. His new office was a converted supply closet. But Lucas refused to quit. He worked twice as hard, staying late into the night. His first project analysis revealed a major cost-saving opportunity. William was impressed. This is excellent work, William said, reviewing Lucas's report. You've got your father's eye for detail. Nathan stormed in. That report is garbage. He probably stole it from our competitors. Actually, Lucas countered, I found an error in our supply chain. We're losing millions on outdated contracts. William smiled. Implement the changes immediately. Nathan's face turned red. Uncle Will, a word in private? As they argued behind closed doors, Sandra slipped Lucas a note. Meet me at the old archives. Midnight. Found the safe. The basement archives were dark and dusty. Sandra was already there, holding an old ledger. "There's a safe behind this shelf," she whispered. "Your father kept important documents in it. Nathan's been trying to find it for months. What's inside? Truth. About everything. About who Nathan really is." She handed him a key. "Richard gave me this years ago, said if anything happened to him." The light suddenly blazed on. Nathan stood in the doorway. Well, a midnight meeting with the secretary, how romantic." His smile was cold. "Unfortunately, Sandra's access to the archives has been revoked. Security." 2 guards appeared. "Please escort Miss Davis out. Her services are no longer required." "You can't do this," Lucas protested. "I can do whatever I want." Nathan stepped closer. "This is my company. You're nothing but a charity case. Remember that." As Sandra was led away, she managed to slip the key into Lucas's pocket. The next morning, rumors spread that Lucas had been caught stealing company secrets. His security clearance was further restricted. Coworkers avoided him, but the key burned in his pocket. Whatever was in that safe, Nathan was desperate to keep it hidden. Lucas's phone buzzed. The hospital. His mother's condition had worsened. "She's asking for you," the nurse said, "and she keeps mentioning someone named Richard. Says she has to warn him. I'll be right there." On his way out, William stopped him. "Lucas, wait, there's something you should know about your father and me. About why I'm really helping you." But Lucas was already running to his car. His mother needed him. The safe and its secrets would have to wait. In the parking lot, the same dark sedan from before pulled out behind him. The chase was on. And somewhere in a private clinic, Richard Thompson's fingers twitched for the first time in 6 months, as if reaching for something or someone just beyond his grasp. Lucas lost the dark sedan in traffic and rushed to his mother's hospital room. Sarah was agitated, trying to get out of bed. "They found us," she kept saying. "Richard's cover is blown." "Mom, what cover? What are you talking about?" Sarah grabbed his arm. "Your father wasn't just an executive, he was FBI, working undercover to infiltrate the Martinez cartel. They had people inside Sullivan Technologies, using the company to launder money." Lucas sat down hard. "What?" "I discovered the accounts when I worked there. That's how Richard and I met. When they realized I knew too much, he helped us disappear, made it look like he'd abandoned us to protect us." "The cartel. They're still after us?" Sarah nodded weakly. "Nathan's mother, she was Elena Martinez, cartel royalty. Richard had a relationship with her as part of his cover. When she discovered he was FBI." A noise at the door made them both jump. William stood there, looking grim. "It's time you knew everything," he said, "starting with who I really am. You're not just Dad's old boss, are you?" William shook his head. "I'm your uncle Lucas, Sarah's brother. I've been watching over you both from a distance all these years." Sarah started crying. "I'm sorry I never told you, Lucas. We had to keep you safe." "The company's files," Lucas said, realization dawning. "They could expose the cartel's entire operation." "Yes, that's what's in the safe, proof of everything." William looked at his sister. "Nathan knows we're close to finding it. That's why he's making his move now." Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the hospital. "Code blue, 4th floor. Code blue." "That's the ICU," Lucas said. "Where Dad is." "Go," Sarah urged. "I'll be fine." Lucas and William raced to the private clinic. They found Nathan standing over Richard's bed holding a syringe. "Stop," William shouted. "Too late," Nathan sneered. "The cartel sends their regards." But Richard's bed was empty. "Looking for me?" Sandra stood in the doorway, pointing a gun at Nathan. "I moved him an hour ago. I knew you'd try something like this." "You don't understand," Nathan said, his voice shaking. "They'll kill me if I don't finish this. My mother." "Elena Martinez is dead," William cut in. "Has been for years. The cartel is using you, Nathan, just like they used her." Security guards rushed in. Nathan dropped the syringe and ran, shoving past them. "He'll go to the office," Sandra said. "The safe. It's his last chance to destroy the evidence." Back at Sullivan Technologies, they found Nathan ransacking the archives. "It's over," Lucas said. "We know everything. You know nothing." Nathan's eyes were wild. "You had a perfect life with your precious mother while I grew up in the cartel. Do you know what that was like?" "Your father was trying to protect you too," William said softly. "Why do you think he stayed undercover so long? He was gathering evidence to bring down the people who killed your mother." "Lies." But Nathan's voice cracked. All lies. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Nathan pulled out a gun. I won't let you destroy everything. The cartel is my real family. They raised me after my mother died, after Richard betrayed her. That's not true, a weak voice said from behind them. They all turned. Richard Thompson stood in the doorway, leaning on Sandra for support. Dad? Nathan's hand trembled. The cartel killed your mother when she tried to help me protect you. They've been lying to you all these years. Son, please. Let me tell you the truth. Nathan's gun clattered to the floor as 22 years of lies finally began to unravel. Your mother died trying to get you out, Richard told Nathan, his voice weak. The cartel told you I betrayed her, but she was helping me gather evidence. She wanted you safe. Before Nathan could respond, Lucas's phone rang. The hospital. Mr. Morgan, your mother's condition is critical. Her organs are failing. We need you here immediately. Lucas's world spun. 24 hours left until the debt collectors returned. And now this. Go, Richard said. Your mother needs you. We'll handle things here. At the hospital, doctors delivered the devastating news. Sarah needed emergency surgery. Cost $150,000. Without it, she has less than 12 hours, the doctor said. Lucas's phone buzzed. A text from Sandra. Don't trust the flash drive I gave you. It's been compromised. Nathan switched it. Another message followed. Companies facing hostile takeover. Nathan sold information to competitors. Stock dropping. William needs you at office now. I'll find the money, William promised when Lucas called him. Just focus on Sarah. But in the office, chaos reigned. Stock prices plummeted. Investors were panicking. Years of financial manipulation were surfacing. Nathan leaked everything, Sandra explained. The company could collapse by morning. William looked defeated. The board's calling for my resignation. We're losing everything. Lucas checked his phone. 18 hours until the debt collectors returned. His mother had even less time. Suddenly, Richard appeared in the doorway. He looked stronger, more alert. The safe, he said. We need to open it now. You should be in the hospital, Lucas protested. No time. Nathan's planning something. He keeps making calls. The cartel's moving money out of our accounts. Sandra brought the key Lucas had hidden. Together, they moved the shelf, revealing the old safe. But when they opened it, it was empty. Impossible, Richard whispered. All the evidence. Looking for these? Nathan stood behind them, holding a stack of files. Found them years ago. Just waited for the right moment. Son, please, Richard stepped toward him. The cartel killed your mother. These files prove it. Stop calling me son. Nathan's face contorted. You abandoned me, left me with them. Now you'll lose everything, just like I did. He pulled out his phone. The files go public in 1 hour. Sullivan Technologies will be finished, and the cartel's coming to clean up loose ends. Those files could save my mother, Lucas said desperately. The company's money, please? Your mother? Nathan laughed coldly. Check her latest blood tests. Someone's been poisoning her for weeks. Slowly, making it look like organ failure. Lucas felt the floor drop out from under him. The collectors, the loans, the medical crisis, it was all connected. Why? He choked out. Because that's what the cartel taught me, Nathan said. You want to destroy someone, go after what they love. Richard lunged for the files. Nathan dodged, running for the door, but Sandra blocked his path. Move! Nathan raised his hand to strike her. I can't, Sandra said, tears streaming. I should have protected you all those years ago. What are you talking about? I'm your mother's sister, your aunt. I've worked here for 20 years watching you, trying to keep you safe. Elena made me promise. Nathan froze. In that moment of shock, Richard grabbed the files. But Nathan recovered quickly. Too late, it's already uploaded. In 45 minutes, everything goes public. The company falls, and the cartel's hit squad is already on their way. Lucas's phone buzzed one last time. The hospital. Mr. Morgan, your mother's crashing. You need to come now. The countdown had begun. Sarah dying. Company collapsing. Cartel coming. And somewhere in the city, debt collectors checked their watches. 16 hours left. They all had to choose. Save the company? Save Sarah? Stop the cartel? Time was running out. Lucas burst into his mother's hospital room. Sarah was conscious but barely breathing. The poison, she whispered. Check. My old diary. I knew they were coming. Save your strength, Lucas held her hand. The doctors are coming. William rushed in. I've transferred everything I have. It's not enough for the surgery, but it might buy us time. A nurse appeared with Sarah's test results. The blood work shows unusual toxins. We're treating it as attempted murder. Police are on their way. Lucas remembered Sarah's diary mention. Mom, where is it? Home. Under floorboard. Her voice faded as machines started beeping frantically. She's crashing again, the nurse called. You need to leave. In the hallway, Lucas's phone rang. Richard. Nathan's gone, Richard said. But he left a message. He's going to kill me. Then Sarah. Says it'll be poetic, both parents dying at once. He's not thinking straight, Sandra cut in. The cartel's been manipulating him for years. Lucas raced home, finding the loose floorboard in his mother's room. The diary was there, along with a USB drive. Back at the office, they gathered around a computer. The diary detailed everything. Sarah had discovered the cartel's operation while working in accounting. She'd copied evidence, knowing they might need it someday. Smart woman, Richard said softly. She always was. The USB drive contained account numbers, transactions, names, everything needed to expose the cartel. Nathan doesn't know about this, William said. This could save the company. And put the cartel's leaders in prison, Richard added. Sandra's phone buzzed. Nathan's at the clinic. He's looking for Richard. Let him look, Richard said grimly. I'm done hiding. Dad, no, Lucas protested. He'll kill you. I've been pretending to be weaker than I am, faking symptoms, waiting for the right moment. Richard stood straighter, stronger. It's time to end this. William's security team reported cartel vehicles approaching the building. They're coming for the evidence, Sandra said. All of it. Lucas's phone rang. The hospital. Sarah was stabilized but critical. The poison had been identified. Treatment would cost $200,000. 14 hours left. Lucas muttered. Richard read a text from Nathan. Clinic. Now, alone, or Sarah dies anyway. He's not thinking clearly, Sandra pleaded. Let me talk to him. No. Richard grabbed his coat. I should have faced him years ago. I'm coming with you, Lucas said. Absolutely not. Stay with your mother. She has 14 hours. The company has 40 minutes until Nathan's files go public. The cartel's almost here. Lucas stood firm. We solve this together. Richard stared at his son, seeing himself at that age. Finally, he nodded. William, get Sarah moved to a secure floor, Richard ordered. Sandra, start the money transfer for her treatment. I have accounts they don't know about. And the cartel? William asked. Let them come, Richard said. It's time they met the real Richard Thompson. Father and son headed for the clinic, knowing Nathan waited with a gun and 22 years of rage. Behind them, cartel vehicles surrounded the building. Sandra clutched the USB drive. William mobilized security, and in her hospital bed, Sarah opened her eyes, whispering a warning they couldn't hear. The final confrontation was about to begin, but only some would survive it. The clinic was eerily quiet when Lucas and Richard arrived. Security cameras were disabled. Staff evacuated. Nathan, Richard called out. Let's talk. 22 years too late for talking. Nathan emerged from shadows, gun raised. You abandoned me to killers. I tried to save you, Richard stepped forward. Your mother and I planned to get you out, but the cartel found out. Lies. Nathan's hand shook. They told me everything. How you betrayed her, turned her in. The cartel killed her, Richard said softly, because she helped me gather evidence. To free you. A phone buzzed. Sarah had been moved to a secure floor. Treatment starting. Costs transferred. Your precious evidence, Nathan sneered. 10 minutes until it all goes public. The company falls. Your legacy dies. You think the cartel will let you live? Lucas asked. Once you're not useful. Shut up. You had everything. A mother's love. A normal life. While you had power, Lucas countered. Money, position, what I wouldn't have given for that. Nathan. Sandra's voice came from behind them. She'd followed despite orders to stay back. Your mother loved you. Elena was my sister. She died protecting you. More lies. I have proof. Sandra pulled out an old letter. Elena wrote this the night she died. Read it. Nathan's hand trembled as he took the letter. My darling son, he read aloud. Richard is your father, but he's also FBI. I've been helping him gather evidence. The cartel suspects. If you're reading this, I'm dead. Trust Richard. He'll protect you. All my love, Mama. Nathan staggered. No, they said. They lied, Richard said gently. I tried to reach you, but they moved you, hid you. Lucas's phone buzzed. Cartel forces had breached the building. William was holding them off. 5 minutes until the files go public, Nathan whispered. I can't stop it. Yes, you can. Sandra stepped closer. Help us save your brother's mother. Help us end this. Brother? Nathan laughed bitterly. We're nothing to each other. We're both Richard's sons, Lucas said, both victims of the cartel's lies. Nathan stared at the letter, then at Richard. All these years, suddenly his phone rang. The cartel boss. Is it done? A cold voice demanded on speaker. Are they dead? Nathan met Richard's eyes. 22 years of manipulation crystallized into clarity. No, Nathan said, and Elena Martinez's son is done taking orders. He quickly typed on his phone. Files deleted, upload stopped. You're dead, the boss growled. Just like your mother. My mother died protecting me from you, Nathan's voice hardened. I know the truth now. Gunfire erupted downstairs. The cartel was closing in. We need to go, Richard urged. All of us. Nathan hesitated, then handed Richard the gun. I don't deserve. You're my son. Richard gripped his shoulder. I never stopped trying to save you. Lucas's phone buzzed again. Sarah was responding to treatment. She'd live. Family meeting's over, Sandra called. Cartel's coming up fast. They raced for the exit, but Nathan stopped. The evidence? It's in my office safe. We'll never reach it, Lucas said. Yes, we will. Nathan's eyes gleamed. I know this building better than them, and I owe the cartel some payback. Father and son shared a look. Years of pain and separation hung between them. Together, Richard decided, they headed toward danger. A broken family finally united, but the cartel was coming with full force, and this time they weren't taking prisoners. Gunfire echoed through Sullivan Technologies as Richard, Lucas, and Nathan navigated back corridors. Security cameras showed 20 cartel members, Nathan reported, checking his phone. They're heading to my office. The evidence? Richard asked. Hidden safe behind the painting. Everything we need to destroy them. They reached the executive floor. William had evacuated employees, but signs of battle were everywhere. Uncle Will held them off, Nathan said, voice thick with guilt. After everything I did. Focus, Richard commanded. We end this now. Sandra's voice crackled through their phones. Guys, we have another problem. Sarah's doctors just called. The antidote's not working. They need a specific formula. The cartel's custom poison, Nathan realized. I know where they keep it. And the antidote. Lucas grabbed his arm. Where? Boss's briefcase. He never goes anywhere without it. Richard checked his watch. How long does Sarah have? 2 hours, Sandra replied. Maybe less. Gunmen burst through the stairwell door. The 3 men dove for cover. My office, now. Nathan led them through a hidden passage behind a false wall. Inside his office, Nathan ran to the painting. The safe swung open, revealing files and hard drives. This will bury them, he said, stuffing evidence into a bag. Decades of operations, every crime, every killer. More gunfire outside. The cartel was closing in. There's no way out, Lucas said. Nathan smiled grimly. Yes, there is. He pressed a button under his desk. A panel opened in the floor. Private elevator leads to the parking garage. You first. Richard pushed Lucas toward the opening. Dad, no. I'll hold them off. Get the evidence out. Save your mother. The office door exploded inward. The cartel boss entered, flanked by gunmen. Touching family reunion, he sneered, holding up a metal briefcase. Looking for this? Your mother begs for it every time she wakes up. Lucas lunged forward, but Richard held him back. Let them go, Richard said. This is between us. No more deals. The boss aimed his gun. The Thompson line ends tonight. Nathan stepped forward. My mother was Elena Martinez. Your sister, your own blood. Elena was weak. She betrayed us for this FBI rat. She tried to save her son, Richard growled. You killed your own sister. The boss laughed. Family is nothing. Power is everything. He fired. Richard shoved Lucas toward the escape panel, but Nathan moved faster. He jumped in front of his father, taking the bullet in his shoulder. Chaos erupted. Richard tackled the boss. The briefcase skidded across the floor. Lucas grabbed it as gunmen opened fire. Go, Nathan shouted, shooting back with his good arm. Get the antidote to Sarah. Lucas hesitated. I'll protect our father. Nathan locked eyes with him. I swear it. Go. Lucas dropped through the panel. The elevator was waiting. Above, he heard more gunfire, screams, breaking glass. His phone buzzed. Sarah was critical. The elevator reached the garage. Lucas sprinted to his car. Behind him, an explosion rocked the building's upper floors. Dad? He yelled into his phone. Nathan? Static. He looked at the briefcase. The antidote was inside. But his father and brother, another explosion. Flames lit up the night sky. Lucas had to choose, save his mother or go back for his family. The hospital called again. Time was running out. Above, through smoke and fire, Richard and Nathan fought for their lives. And the cartel boss, bleeding but alive, spoke into his phone. Killed a woman. Killed them all. The night's final battle was about to begin, and not everyone would survive until morning. Lucas raced the car toward the hospital, briefcase on the passenger seat. His phone kept ringing. William, Sandra, the doctors. A dark SUV appeared in his rearview mirror, then another. "They're following you," Sandra said through his earpiece. 2 cartel hit teams heading to the hospital. "What about Dad and Nathan?" "Still fighting. William's leading security to help them." "But Lucas, there's something else you need to know." Another explosion rocked the Sullivan building behind him. "Your mother," Sandra continued. "She left something with me years ago, a confession, about William. The SUVs were getting closer. He's not just your uncle. William helped set up your father's FBI operation. He was his handler." Lucas swerved to avoid a collision. "What?" "William recruited Richard to infiltrate the cartel. That's how your parents met. Sarah was an undercover analyst." The truth hit Lucas hard. His whole family had been fighting the cartel from the beginning. His phone rang, the hospital. Sarah was awake, asking for him. The SUVs tried to box him in. Lucas spotted an ambulance ahead, lights flashing. "Perfect," he muttered, accelerating. He pulled alongside the ambulance, then cut sharply in front of it. The SUVs had to brake hard to avoid hitting emergency services. Lucas reached the hospital's underground parking. Armed men in suits, FBI agents, waited. "William called us," one said. "We've secured the building." Upstairs, Lucas found Sarah conscious but pale. "I'm sorry," she whispered as he prepared the antidote. "I should have told you everything. About Dad being FBI, about William, about the evidence." She gripped his hand. "I made copies of everything. Years of cartel operations. I hid them." "Where?" "The old house, behind the fireplace. Richard's original reports, bank records. Everything the FBI needs." Lucas's phone buzzed. "Sandra. Nathan's download wasn't the only copy," she said. "He just triggered a second release. Every news outlet, every law enforcement agency, it's all coming out." Gunfire erupted downstairs. The cartel had breached the hospital. "Lucas," Sarah grabbed his arm. "The letters. In my room. The ones your father wrote. You kept them?" "Every week for 20 years. He never stopped trying to protect us. To end this." FBI agents rushed in. "We need to move, now." Lucas helped transfer Sarah to a wheelchair. His phone showed missed calls from the Sullivan building. "Dad?" Nay, static. Then William's voice, coughing. "They're alive. Injured, but alive. The cartel boss." More static. Sarah squeezed Lucas's hand. "Go, help them." "I won't leave you. I'm safe now." She nodded to the FBI agents. "Finish what we started. End this." Lucas's phone lit up with news alerts. The evidence was viral. Cartel operations exposed worldwide. Sandra called. "Lucas, there's more. Richard, he recorded everything. His whole operation. It's in Nathan's safe." Dad knew, Lucas realized. He knew Nathan would eventually find it. He never lost faith in either of you. Gunfire was getting closer. FBI agents moved Sarah toward a secure exit. "I love you," she told Lucas. "Now go save your father. Both of them." Lucas raced back to his car. His phone showed live news coverage of the Sullivan building. Police surrounding it, firefighters battling flames. William called again, clearer now. "The cartel boss has them cornered, top floor. He's wounded but dangerous." "I'm coming." "Lucas, wait. There's something else you need to know. About your brother." But Lucas was already driving, pushing the car to its limits. Behind him, Sarah was finally safe. The truth was exposed. Justice was coming. But on the burning top floor of Sullivan Technologies, his father and brother were fighting for their lives. And the cartel boss had nothing left to lose. The night's final battle awaited. Lucas reached Sullivan Technologies as SWAT teams surrounded the building. Fire blazed from upper floors. There in the executive suite, William met him at the entrance. "Richard and Nathan are hurt but alive. The cartel boss is bleeding out, desperate. How do we get up there?" "Service elevator. Only way left." They found Sandra coordinating with FBI teams. "The evidence is everywhere now. Interpol's moving on cartel operations globally. It's over." "Not until they're safe." Lucas headed for the elevator. "Wait." William grabbed his arm. "There's something about Nathan you need to know. He didn't just switch sides tonight. He's been working with us for months." Lucas froze. What? Deep undercover. Like your father. We turned him 3 months ago when he found Richard's original files. Everything since then, the threats, the sabotage, it was an act to maintain his cover. The building shook with another explosion. He protected you, William continued, warned us about assassination attempts, helped us track the poison they gave Sarah. Lucas's phone rang, the hospital. Sarah was responding to treatment. She'd recover fully. Why didn't he tell me? To protect you. The cartel was watching. They still had sleeper agents we hadn't identified. The service elevator opened. Armed FBI agents filed in. Your brother's been trying to make things right, William said. Just like your father. Upstairs, they found the executive floor in chaos. Smoke filled the halls. Bodies of cartel gunmen lay scattered. Richard's voice echoed from the main office. It's over, Miguel. Your organization is finished. Then I die taking you with me. The cartel boss, Miguel, sounded weak but dangerous. Lucas peered through broken doors. Richard and Nathan were cornered. Miguel held a detonator. Enough explosives to level the floor, Nathan said, spotting Lucas. He's rigged the whole office. Miguel laughed bitterly. Family reunion? Perfect. You'll all burn together. You killed your own sister, Richard said. Used her son. For what? Power, money, the only things that matter. You're wrong, Nathan stepped forward. My mother died protecting me from you, from this life. She was weak. Like you. No, Nathan's voice hardened. She was strong. Strong enough to help take you down. Her evidence. Her sacrifice. It ends tonight. Miguel's finger tightened on the detonator. Say goodbye. Several things happened at once. Nathan lunged for Miguel. Richard dove for the detonator. Lucas grabbed his father's arm. FBI snipers fired through windows. Miguel fell, bullets finding their mark, but his finger squeezed the trigger as he died. No. Nathan tackled Lucas and Richard clear as explosions rocked the floor. The ceiling collapsed. Flames erupted. When the smoke cleared, Lucas found himself in the hallway. Richard lay nearby, conscious but bleeding. Nathan? Lucas called out. Nathan! They found him under debris, shielding Miguel's body. The detonator. Nathan coughed. Had to stop the chain reaction. Other bombs. Medics rushed in. Nathan had taken the worst of the blast. You saved us, Lucas gripped his brother's hand. Had to. Make things right. Nathan's eyes closed. Stay with us, son, Richard begged as medics worked. William appeared through the smoke. Hospitals ready, choppers waiting. They loaded Nathan onto a stretcher. He was breathing, but barely. Go with him, Richard told Lucas. I'll handle things here. Lucas helped his father up. We go together, all of us. Hours later, they gathered in the hospital waiting room. Sarah, now recovering, held Richard's hand as doctors updated them on Nathan. He'll pull through, the surgeon announced. But his recovery will take time. Relief filled the room. William hugged Sandra. FBI agents shook hands. Years of undercover work, sacrifice, and pain had finally ended. Sarah looked at her family, her son, her long-lost love, the brother who protected them in secret, and the nephew who'd risked everything to make things right. We made it, she whispered. Richard kissed her hand. We're whole again. Lucas's phone buzzed with news alerts. The cartel's empire was crumbling worldwide. Justice had finally come. In his hospital room, Nathan opened his eyes to find his family waiting. The long night was over and a new day was beginning. 1 year later, the Sullivan Technologies building stood restored, its windows gleaming in the morning sun. Inside, Lucas sat at his father's old desk, now his own, reviewing quarterly reports. The company had not only survived, but thrived. After the cartel's exposure, William and Richard had restructured everything, ensuring complete transparency. Lucas's innovative leadership style brought in record profits while maintaining strict ethical standards. A knock at his door made him look up. Nathan entered, walking with a slight limp, a permanent reminder of that explosive night. Ready for the board meeting? Nathan asked. After months of physical therapy and legal proceedings, he'd been cleared of all charges. His undercover work had helped bring down cartel operations in 12 countries. Born ready, Lucas smiled. How's the youth program going? Nathan had started a foundation, helping children affected by cartel violence. It was his way of honoring Elena's memory and making amends. We're opening 3 new centers next month, Dad speaking at the ceremony. Richard had retired from active FBI work, but consulted on international crime cases. More importantly, he dedicated himself to rebuilding relationships with both his sons. Speaking of Dad, Lucas checked his watch. We're all meeting at Mom's for dinner tonight. Some big announcement. Sarah had made a full recovery. The hospital where she'd nearly died was now part of a Sullivan Technologies healthcare initiative, providing free treatment to victims of organized crime. Nathan straightened his tie. Think he's finally going to propose? Lucas grinned. Their parents had been dating again, rediscovering their love after decades apart. Sarah had even moved into a house next door to Richard's. William burst in, excited. Have you seen the latest numbers? The Asia expansion is exceeding all projections. After stepping down as CEO, William had become the company's global strategy advisor. More importantly, he'd fully embraced his role as uncle to both Lucas and Nathan. Uncle Will, Nathan said, you're supposed to be semi-retired. Retirement's overrated. William waved a report. Besides, someone has to keep you boys in line. Sandra appeared in the doorway. The board's waiting. As head of corporate security, Sandra had transformed the company's protective measures. Her experience with the cartel proved invaluable. She and Nathan had developed a close relationship, healing old wounds from Elena's loss. They headed to the boardroom together, a family united by choice as much as blood. The company's transformation mirrored their own, from secrets and survival to transparency and growth. The headline in that morning's Wall Street Journal said it all. Sullivan Technologies, a model of corporate reform and family leadership. After the board meeting, Lucas visited the company's new charitable foundation. The receptionist smiled warmly. Mr. Morgan, your mother called. Don't forget to pick up the cake for tonight. The special dinner wasn't just for Richard's announcement. It was also the anniversary of that fateful night when Lucas had first walked into Sullivan Technologies, desperate and alone. Now he had everything he'd ever wanted. Family, purpose, and the means to help others. The debt collectors who'd threatened him were serving long prison sentences, along with the cartel leaders they'd worked for. At his mother's house that evening, the family gathered in her renovated kitchen. Sarah and Richard cooked together, stealing glances like teenagers. William entertained everyone with stories about the early days of the company. Sandra and Nathan discussed plans for the foundation's expansion. Lucas watched them all, remembering how close they'd come to losing everything. The scars remained, Nathan's limp, Richard's occasional nightmares, Sarah's lingering trust issues. But they'd survived, stronger for the breaking and rebuilding. Richard clinked his glass for attention. I have something to say. The room quieted. He took Sarah's hand. 23 years ago, I made the hardest choice of my life, leaving the people I loved to protect them. I thought I was being strong, but I was wrong. Real strength is what I learned from my sons. He looked at Lucas and Nathan. One never gave up hope, even when life was darkest. The other found his way back from the shadows, choosing right over easy. You both taught me that family isn't about protection. It's about standing together, no matter what comes. Sarah wiped tears as Richard turned to her. I've loved you since the day we met. Even undercover, even in hiding, even when I thought I'd lost you forever. Will you marry me? Again? Yes, Sarah whispered. 1,000 times yes. The room erupted in cheers. William opened champagne. Sandra hugged everyone, crying happy tears. Lucas and Nathan exchanged looks. After everything, their family was whole again. Later that night, Lucas stood on the porch with his father and brother, sharing cigars William had brought. Did you ever imagine this? Lucas asked. A year ago? Never, Nathan admitted. I thought I'd die in the cartel, or worse, become like them. Richard put his arms around both sons. I imagined it every day, prayed for it, but the reality is better than any dream. Inside, they could hear Sarah laughing at one of William's jokes. Sandra was showing off pictures of her new grandson. Her daughter had named him Richard, after the man who'd helped save their family. The Sullivan Technologies building glowed in the distance, a symbol of their transformation. The company's new motto, displayed proudly in the lobby, read, Family, Integrity, Future. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The business world was still cutthroat. Old enemies sometimes surfaced seeking revenge. Trust had to be maintained, relationships constantly nurtured. But they would face it together. Two brothers who'd found each other, parents reunited by love and forgiveness, an uncle who'd protected them from the shadows, and a woman who'd kept faith with her sister's memory. To family, Lucas raised his glass. To second chances, Nathan added. To love, Richard finished. Their glasses clinked as stars appeared above. Sarah called them in for dessert. William was teaching Sandra an old Scottish dance. Life, in all its messy, beautiful complexity, went on. Lucas took one last look at the night sky. A year ago, he'd been desperate, alone, fighting for survival. Now, he had everything, and more importantly, everyone he'd ever wanted. They went inside together, 3 generations of Thompsons and Sullivans, leaving the darkness behind. The past couldn't be changed, but the future was bright with promise. And in the end, that's what family was all about. Not the perfection of the past, but the promise of tomorrow, faced together with love, courage, and hope. The next morning, Lucas arrived early at Sullivan Technologies, his mind still on last night's celebration. The cleaning crew was just finishing up when he noticed an old man standing in the lobby, studying the Wall of Honor, a memorial to employees who'd helped expose the cartel. Can I help you? Lucas approached. The man turned. Just remembering, I was Richard's first partner at the FBI 30 years ago. Name's Frank Miller. Lucas had heard stories about Frank, the agent who'd first recruited his father. He made the right choice, Frank said, pointing to a photo of Elena Martinez. I was there when he decided to go undercover. Told him it would cost him everything. He said some things were worth the price. It nearly did cost everything. Lucas admitted. Frank nodded. But look what it built instead. He gestured to the bustling lobby. A company that helps people. 2 sons who changed the world. Love that survived decades of separation. Worth the price, I'd say. The old agent handed Lucas a folder. Wedding gift for your parents. The original case files declassified. Thought they might want their whole story. As Frank left, Lucas opened the folder. Inside were surveillance photos, mission reports, and personal notes. He saw his mother, young and determined, working late at her accounting desk. His father, undercover, meeting with cartel members. Elena Martinez, beautiful and sad, holding baby Nathan. The elevator dinged. Nathan emerged with a group of teenagers, participants in his foundation's mentorship program. Teaching them about corporate ethics, Nathan explained, showing them there's always another way. Lucas watched his brother with the kids. Nathan had found his calling, helping young people avoid the paths he'd nearly taken. The teens clearly adored him, seeing past his limp to the strength within. Sarah arrived next, bringing wedding planning materials. She'd started a support group for families affected by organized crime, turning her pain into purpose. Mom, Lucas held up Frank's folder. Look what Dad's old partner brought. Sarah's eyes misted as she saw the photos. We were so young, so sure we could change the world. You did, Nathan said. Look around. The lobby was filling with employees. Among them were former cartel members who'd chosen redemption, helped by Nathan's program. Children of crime victims, now working in Sarah's outreach initiatives. FBI agents transitioning to civilian life, guided by Richard's mentorship. William and Sandra arrived together, arguing good-naturedly about retirement plans. I'm telling you, William insisted, ziplining in Costa Rica is perfectly safe at my age. You're not going without a security team, Sandra countered. She'd become the family's protective aunt, watching over them all. Richard was the last to arrive, carrying coffee for everyone, a simple gesture that meant everything. A year ago, they'd been scattered, broken, lost. Now they started each day together. The morning news showed more cartel arrests worldwide. The evidence they'd exposed was still bringing down criminal empires. But that wasn't their focus anymore. They'd learned that healing mattered more than revenge, building more than destroying. Lucas gathered everyone in the conference room. Behind them, the city skyline stretched endlessly. Before them lay proposals for new charitable initiatives, expansion plans, dreams waiting to become reality. Last year, he began, I walked in here desperate for a job. Found a family instead. Found yourself, Richard corrected. Found who you were meant to be. Sarah squeezed Richard's hand. Their wedding would be small, intimate. They'd lost too many years for grand ceremonies. What mattered was the life they'd build going forward. Nathan pulled up presentations for the foundation's next projects. William offered funding suggestions. Sandra took notes, adding security recommendations. They worked together seamlessly, each bringing their unique strengths. Outside the window, morning sun caught the building's new sign, Sullivan Thompson Technologies. Not just a company name, a testament to families reunited, wounds healed, love restored. Later, alone in his office, Lucas found a note Frank had slipped into the folder. Richard once asked if the sacrifice was worth it. I told him to ask in 20 years. Now I have my answer. Look what grew from those hard choices. Not just success or justice, but the harder victories, forgiveness, redemption, love that outlasts darkness. In the end, that's the only victory that matters. Lucas pinned the note beside his family photo. The past would always be there, but it no longer defined them. They were writing a new story now together. And that was worth more than any fortune, any victory, any empire. That was worth everything.